detail on CACR 28.
Representative Thompson has moved in expedient to legislate. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Potter. Representative Thompson, you're recognized to speak to your motion.
Thank you, Chairman. This resolution violates the intent of the New Hampshire Constitution. We should never amend a living document of our state to enshrine discrimination. Article 2, Article 3, Article 4, and Article 5 would be violated, and they are rights in our Constitution now, created to grant all of our citizens, created and granted to all of our citizens. It does not have exceptions, clauses, or anything that excludes all of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Representative O'Brien.
Of course, Mr. Chairman, is a specious article that an amendment to a constitution is going to violate the Constitution. It's an amendment, after all.
Any further discussion? Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that the key issue on marriage has to do with whether one views the marriage is that the state's interest in marriage is primarily the interest of maintaining relationships between two adults, or whether it has to do with raising children. And if it has to do with raising children, then there's a vested interest in the state in marriage in order to achieve the kind of next generation that the state requires to be successful. And I don't believe that any of those would be in conflict with any other section in the Constitution. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Representative Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am concerned about the rather widespread talk about, quote, let New Hampshire vote. And it seems to me that what that would accomplish is a cover for letting big money, maybe from California into New Hampshire, to subvert that vote. And to frame the discussion in that fashion, rather than as framing it as a vote against our neighbors and friends and co-workers and so forth, is a great mistake. We have lots of other things to do, jobs and housing and care of children has been commented. And I hope this bill will be voted ITL.
Thank you, Representative Potter. Is there any further discussion? Representative Meade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are the representatives of the people. We are elected to represent them, and to let their voices not be heard on an issue so important to me it borders on being afraid of fluffy precedent that the people of the state might want versus what we think is right to have. I can't understand why we would go against it and not let the individuals and citizens of this state have an opportunity to voice their dissent.
Representative O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find it surprising that a concern would be voiced about big money coming in from California, because clearly big money came in from Colorado to produce this radical change that we saw in last year's legislation. If there's one thing that I heard almost uniformly from constituents with whom I spoke about the bill last year, it is that we, the people, should decide on a cultural change like this, and it shouldn't be done by legislators, particularly legislators who have been put in place to produce that one change. The people need to be heard on this, and we fear the people if we don't pass this constitutional amendment. We fear that they will tell us that we made a mistake last year. Let us pass this constitutional amendment. Let us hear what the people want.
Representative Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. Just in response, I want to say that I don't think that minority rights should ever be subject to a popular vote, which is what this constitutional amendment would be about. I think it's important to distinguish between religious beliefs and the state's legitimate interest in the regulation of marriage, and our people's legitimate interest in being able to enter into contractual rights which are involved in marriage. And I strongly believe that it is up to us as legislators to pass the law And if people don't like our votes, they can always re-elect us or not re-elect us as they choose. But to submit minority rights to popular vote really is a violation of the rule of law. And there'd be no reason for a Bill of Rights if we were simply going to have majority vote to decide what those rights are. Thank you.
Representative Waters.
I also agree that individual rights or minorities should not be put up to a popular vote. Article 2 of the New Hampshire Constitution states equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by this state on account of race, creed, color, sex, or national origin. And I believe this constitutional amendment would be against that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Representative Elliott.
Thank you. Last year we passed this radical legislation knowing full well that the citizens of our state did not want that. They sent us letter after letter. I must have received in excess of 1,000 letters of citizens saying, do not do this, we don't want this in New Hampshire. The people are writing since then, and they are saying, why are you shoving this down our throats? They want to vote like they did in other states. They feel that this is their state, not that of a radical minority. And for that reason, we should give them the right to vote on what marriage should be in this state.
Representative Fruscia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me say this weekend I got over 100 phone calls. There were robocall where they identified to these unknown people that they were calling from my office. And to plug number 2, hit number 2, if they wanted me to hear their opinion. It was a roost. It was a lie. It's being investigated by the state police, the local police, and as many police as I can get. To be very frank with you. I was disturbed over the fact that it not only infringed upon my personal privacy, but my family's. I don't believe this is the way you pass legislation. This bill has gotten all of the due process of law. I'm going to vote in favor of ITR because I clearly feel the proposal of a constitutional amendment in and of itself, which is unconstitutional, just simply cannot survive. It's going to be before the U.S. Supreme Court, hopefully within 5 years. California is being challenged, as you know. Massachusetts is being challenged, as you know. And to be very frank with you, I'm just amazed and shocked that some of the members who I've talked to have gotten the same amount of phone calls. If anyone hits over 110, let me know, but it's not going to end here. I had considered drafting an amendment or a suggestion to the Supreme Court about their opinion. I will not do that. I think that we should just have a vote on this issue. This bill has had due process, and it should go down to a flaming defeat. Thank you.
Representative Rowe.
Yes, thank you. I received 0 calls on this. I will vote for this bill, and the reason is 31 states have taken this issue up. I am not against equal rights. I believe everyone has equal rights, and this is an issue that should definitely go to Washington. That is where the problem is. I consider the word marriage, if there could be another word established and the federal government give the same benefits to the other word, I certainly would go along with that. I think that it is only fair that we let this important issue be decided by the people.
Representative Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There seems to be a little confusion. People keep calling this a bill. This is not a bill. This is a constitutional amendment. Time after time, this House has turned down constitutional amendments that have to do with social issues.